Hello again. Since I put out the original spider video, several of you responded with your own theories or with possible corrections. So I'd like to read some of these responses and discuss how they've affected my thinking. And first up, Watt Sparky writes, I'm more scared of the spiders that have long legs, not the web ones. And Watt makes a good point here, and this is something that I overlooked when making the original video. Much of my main theory related to web spinning spiders, how sort of horrible the idea of being caught in a web is. And yet, arachnophobes fear non-web spinners at least as much as the web spinners. Tarantulas, for example, may be more symbolic of arachnophobia than any other spider, and they don't spin webs. So any theory about why we fear spiders can't rely on the psychological elements relating to the spider web. And I'll sort of get to that later. But first, a couple of sort of new theories people sent in. Guild Wars 2 Ranma writes, one of my teachers when I was 15 had an interesting theory that we're afraid of spiders because of when the sea creatures that became us started to live on land, they encountered large arthropods, which were bigger and a real threat to them, and they evolved a fear of these arthropods as a means of avoid being preyed upon. And this is a very interesting theory, and it sort of has that horror sci-fi element where there were these monsters in the past and our fear of them transferred through the millennia to where we are now. And that's a neat thing to think about. But I'm inclined at this point to discount any theory that relies upon this sort of cross-species evolutionary learning. If we're afraid of spiders because some distant ancestor was threatened by something like a spider, we would expect other animals in our evolutionary line to be afraid of spiders, or other animals closely related to us to be afraid of spiders. And a quick check of Google and sort of consulting my own experience tells me this isn't the case. Think of your pets, cats and dogs, animals that have grown up around human civilization. Do you find that they fear spiders? Most likely they either ignore them, will maybe show curiosity in them, or even want to eat them. And that's similar for our closest primate ancestors. From what I've looked up, chimpanzees and apes don't get arachnophobia, and they'll eat spiders too, and so forth. And we have another theory coming from Christina Bialik. And Christina writes, I am making this theory up right now, but what if a high concentration of spiders is a good indicator that a lot of other bugs are present too? We may fear spiders not because spiders are dangerous to us, but because their presence implies the presence of something that is bad for us. And that's another interesting theory, and it makes me wonder about how spiders know where to place their webs. Do they just sort of do it randomly? Do they experiment? Do they have geometric knowledge to find a good location for a web? Can they sense what sort of area might be a good hangout for insects? Can they sense the presence of insects in some way? But as interesting as that is, I don't look at the possible proximity between spiders and insects as a primary driver of arachnophobia. And that's because if it were true, more people would be afraid of insects in general. Quick, can you name the scientific term for fear of bugs without Googling it? It's entomophobia. And not only did I not know it without having to look it up, but my spell checker doesn't even believe that that's a word. So if we irrationally fear spiders as this sort of roundabout way of rationally fearing large concentrations of insects, you'd think that the fear of insects would be a bigger thing, particularly regarding dangerous or destructive insects, such as wasps or mosquitoes or termites or so forth. And next I'll get to a pair of posts that sort of get to the heart of this new theory that helped me inspire me for a new theory that I'm coming up with. Dreamer Foxtrot writes that Dreamer Foxtrot fears spiders because they have webs, trap things, have long legs, are still in slender-like, but are fast. They have like 6 or 8 eyes or something. They're usually either really hairy or hairless. They can be huge, They have big teeth sometimes, and they are acting still but are fast when they need to be, and that's quite a laundry list of reasons. And in a similar vein, Oh So Radical writes, I think the fact that spiders are so camouflaged makes them scarier, because you can't see them / lose track of them, so you're constantly scared that they're crawling on you. Whereas you can see and hear a wasp, you know where a wasp is, usually, compared to a spider. And these posts highlight an element common to both web-spinning spiders and non-web spinning spiders. That all spiders seem to have this insidious, sneaky element to them. They sort of look monstrous, and they're so still and quiet until they're ready to strike. And when they're ready to strike, they strike fast. In fact, spiders even have this element where their legs rise up over their bodies, like a cat ready to pounce. And so it looks like they're ready to strike at any time if you do see them. And when you take these elements together, it hints at the fear of spiders being linked to perhaps the most all-encompassing of fears, the fear that puts monsters in closets, the fear of the unknown. There could be a spider in your room right now, in some dark corner, behind a desk or dresser, or under your bed, and you might never know. And while spiders employ their camouflage in part to avoid being killed or eaten by larger creatures such as ourselves, their stealth is as much predatory as it is defensive. The same traits that help keep them safe from humans also contribute to their ability to hunt. So while they aren't predators to humans, maybe there's something unnerving about the thought that this predatory creature could be lurking in the shadows or around the corner. Add to this the great variety in the appearance of the spider. Compare a spider to a wasp. A spider isn't necessarily more intimidating or monstrous looking than a wasp. In fact, wasps' coloration is specifically designed to make them scary, to ward other animals off, to tell other animals, I'm scary, I've got a bunch of buddies that are going to sting and kill you if you mess with us. But the big difference is, wasps are so uniform in their appearance, while spiders come in a huge variety of colors and sizes. And that variety can help fuel the imagination. Not only could a spider be hiding anywhere, but it could look like one of a million different nightmare images. So as human imaginations grew, as our brains grew and we acquired more leisure time to daydream and imagine, the spider became the perfect template to project our fears upon, the monster that could be lurking anywhere in a myriad of forms. And that would explain why humans seem to be so unique in fearing spiders, because we've got the most developed brains, we have the most developed imaginations. So we can look at spiders in this abstract way. And anyway, I'm not saying that's the definitive theory or anything like that. It's just something interesting to think about. And you guys helped me come up with it, so thank you. And thank you for listening. And once again, I welcome all ideas, comments, and criticisms. Thank you for your time.